Hi guys, in this video you're going to learn how to have more ideas for your IELTS speaking exam. As you can see, this is a very common problem for students preparing the IELTS speaking, and it's even a problem for native speakers. Just have a look at some of these videos that I recorded with native speakers doing an IELTS speaking exam.
I think yes.
Perhaps.
Thank you. That's the end of your test.
Okay.
Yay!
Did I fail?
Yeah, it's surprising, right? They have real trouble thinking of answers to the IELTS questions. So if you're struggling, then don't worry, it's perfectly normal. In this lesson, you'll learn a technique that you can practice over time to get more ideas for your speaking exam. Now, here's the really important thing. Ideas do not come from nowhere. It's incredibly rare for someone in the IELTS exam to have a completely original idea that comes from pure inspiration. This doesn't really happen. What actually happens with candidates who prepare the exam really well is during their preparation, they are exposed to and they see and they hear and they understand lots of different ideas. It's very tempting with your exam preparation to only practice parts of the exam, to get exam questions, to practice them, to give yourself feedback, to practice more exam questions. But this is not everything that you need to do really well in your IELTS exam. And if you want to get a band 7 or a band 8 or a band 9, then you are going to need to see and hear and express some interesting ideas. So that's what this lesson is all about. It's a technique that you can use to slowly give yourself lots of good ideas. You're going to need to listen to some podcasts, and I'll show you exactly how you can do this. In this activity, you're going to use real natural English podcasts to find ideas and the vocabulary that you can use to express these ideas. You're also going to practice explaining and summarizing what you hear and learn so that you're learning not only native level vocabulary, which will be really useful in your IELTS speaking, but you're also practicing the techniques that you'll need to talk about these ideas during your exam. Now, I'd like to recommend two podcasts to you. The first is This American Life. This is a new podcast that does journalism in a slightly different way. There's lots of podcasts about various different topics. You can see Valentine's Day, wartime radio, rom-coms, it's all about love. They've got a section of recommended podcasts as well. Now, each podcast on This American Life comes in several different sections. So you can see here that we got a prologue, we got Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and each section has a time. So this one is 12 minutes, 25 minutes, 13 minutes, 6 minutes. And this is great because it allows you to select a part of an episode that's the right length for you. If you've only got 10 minutes, then the 6-minute prologue is great. If you've got 20 minutes, then this Act 1 would be perfect for you. You'll see why you need a little bit of extra time in a moment. Another great thing about This American Life is that they have a transcript. So this means that if there's something that you can't understand with the listening, then you have all of the text ready for you on the site. Now, this is obviously native level English, and it can be pretty difficult. If your English is more of an intermediate level, then I would recommend the BBC's Learning English 6-Minute English. It's very similar in that there's lots of podcasts on different topics. Here you can see all of these different topics that they have. And if we have a look at just the first one here, you can see some of the really cool stuff that you get with the BBC Learning English website. They actually do a lot to help you understand what's happening in these podcasts. So you can see that there's a short introduction to help you focus your attention. There's a question to check your listening comprehension, and they give you some vocabulary to help you understand specific words and phrases that you can find in the podcast. And of course, there is a transcript here for you. So if your English is more advanced and you're ready for something native level, then I really recommend This American Life. And if your English is more intermediate and you're moving towards a more advanced level, then 6-Minute English can be great for you. So you can choose one of these podcasts to use, and when you're using it, that's the most important thing. It's not really enough to just listen to these podcasts. You're going to need to do a little bit of extra work, and I created a little worksheet to help you do this. So on this worksheet, there's 6 parts that you need to complete. The first is just the name of the episode. So I would just put the long fuse into this box. The long fuse. The second box is something that you want to know when you're listening to an episode of the podcast. So this is all about people tossing words out into the world impulsively. So saying things without thinking and how they ignite and burn over decades. So this is about the consequences of those words. So I want to know things like, what did people say? And what consequences did that have? Then my job is to listen to the podcast and note down some of the things that I learned. And not only the ideas, but the vocabulary. And this is the really important part. When you're recording the vocabulary, try to use the exact words that they use in the podcast. So if they say, if they express an idea, try and take the exact words that they use. And this is why the transcript can be so useful, because it helps you find the exact words and phrases that they're using. Finally, you want to create a little test for yourself. And this is what the questions for me section is. So you've got some ideas that you've learned and try to turn them into questions. You could even use your I want to know questions if you found the answers. So I could ask myself, for example, why did these words have so many consequences? This is a question that I'm going to answer myself later. And that's what answer on is for. This is the day where you're going to answer this question. So today is Friday. It's probably a good idea to leave 1 or 2 days. So I'm going to say on Sunday, I'm going to answer this question. So Sunday morning, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to open up my document here, and I'm going to see the questions that I gave myself, and I'm going to try and answer them. When you answer the question, give yourself a little bit of feedback. Do you have all of the ideas, the things that you learned during the podcast? And are you using some of your new vocabulary? So using this worksheet, you can Focus your listening so that you're listening for a real reason. You can find ideas and the vocabulary that you need to express them. And then you can create a little test for yourself that you're going to give to make sure that you remember the ideas and you remember the vocabulary. Now, this is great, right? You've got this worksheet to help you practice. You've got some podcasts to listen to. You've got everything you need, right? But I know that there are hundreds of videos like this on YouTube that never actually help people practice because they don't do the activity. If you want to get a really good band score in your IELTS, you need to do the work. So the second part of this lesson is all about creating a plan to actually do this work. It's based on a lot of research from psychology about how to create effective habits. And if you're preparing for the IELTS exam, especially if you're preparing at home on your own, then you need to create effective habits for yourself. So that's what we're going to do together now. We're going to create a plan for an effective study habit. Now, I know from studying French and studying Italian, which I learned to both of them a very high level, I know that creating effective study habits can be really difficult. But if you can do it, then it really, really does help the development of your language. So the first thing you need to know is that creating an effective habit is going to be difficult. It's not an easy task, but with the right plan, you can do it. Just don't expect to create this habit all in one go. Don't expect to wake up tomorrow, start practicing, and practice effectively forever. That probably won't happen. What will happen is this. You'll practice a little bit, your motivation will change, you'll practice a little bit less, your motivation will change again, you'll practice a little bit more. It's okay to practice like this. It's okay to practice a little bit here, not so much there, a little bit more here, and then not so much again. That's just life. Life is not a straight line to success. So go easy on yourself if you don't create this habit very easily. That said, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that you actually do this activity. The first thing you need to do is to think about the time when you're going to do this. It's great to say, I'm going to do this activity, but you need to visualize, you need to see the piece of time, the slot of time where you're going to actually do this. So think about how much time you can commit. Is it 5 minutes? Is it 10 minutes? Is it 20 minutes? 30 minutes? The time that you can commit and how many times a week you can commit it. So if you got 15 minutes, say 3 times a week, then that would be really great. But also think about when. Think about your daily routine. When are you going to do this activity? For example, I know that I normally spend my time before breakfast watching YouTube videos about rock climbing because that's how I start my day. But I know that I could change this habit a little bit and start to do my podcasts then. So before breakfast is a good time for me. You need to think about when is a good time for you. The second thing that you need to do is to set a clear intention. So this is a target that you want to hit. A good target is something like to listen to 10 podcasts in 15 days. This is great because you can count them and you can tick them off on a list, one after the other. I've listened to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 podcasts, and it's satisfying to see your progress towards this goal. Just remember what I said before, that practice is not a straight line to success. There will be days when you can't complete this, so just go easy on yourself and restart your habit as soon as you can. Finally, you want to decide what is the easiest thing that you can do to actually start this activity. For example, the easiest thing might be to choose between This American Life and 6-Minute English. So decide which podcast you're going to listen to and listen to the first 3 minutes of one podcast. Okay, so this whole part to start your habit will take you about 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Decide American Life or 6-Minute English and then listen to the first 3 minutes of one podcast. That's all you need to do to start your habit. Now, the information I've put on this worksheet is just an example, and obviously it might be different for you. So you can get this worksheet from the My Exam with Sam website. There's a link in the description. Okay, so now you have 2 podcasts that you can use to generate more ideas for your IELTS speaking. You have an activity that you can do every time you listen, and you have the start of a plan for creating an effective study habit. You can download all of the resources that you've seen in this lesson completely for free from the My Exam with Sam website. You can find a link in the description below. And if you want to leave questions or comments here on YouTube, feel free and I'll get back to you. All right, I'll see you soon, guys. Bye.